Hi, I'm Ken Lee, and
Mike Norton from P4 Health. How you going?
yeah, really good. I'm the greatest moderator of all time. We'll see how I go. Hey, so
Has
look,
been
what
known.
what we want to talk about today is really data, health data, particularly around wearables at this stage. We've all got wearables. Everyone's got Garmin's, Oura rings, etc. And you've got the data. The data's good, but it just doesn't give you enough information. I think everyone finds it really hard to dig into the data and monitor the data long term. So we just want to touch on that today. Just for full disclosure, Mike's the founder of P4 Health. It's a fantastic software solution to get the most out of your data, your blood, and your genetics. Keep everything in one spot at one time and steer towards really good health. So let's get straight into the questions, Mike. Let's just talk about what the problem is here.
Go.
So, look, you've got an Oura ring, a Garmin, whatever it is. Millions of Australians do. What was the moment you realised that having the data wasn't the same as understanding the data?
I think you need to wind it back a little bit because I've only really got stuck into the data, and I've had an Oura ring for a year now and a Whoop band for a year. And pulling on that data in a historical context to see what I could do with that. But I've also had, epigenetic profiles. I've had dry blood spot tests on. So I tried to culminate all of that data together and make sense of it. I think that's the problem that we've got in this day and age, is that you can have too much data. Like, the biggest problem I had when I was creating the product that I've created was servicing 3,000 data points. How do you make sense of that, really, in a holistic manner? So I've gone, and that was the biggest struggle I've had. I've been doing this for 2 years now and created what I've created, but I've created it in a way where you can select one of 10 journeys, and I think I've coiled them a little bit. I think they're pretty good. But then it surfaces the data based on the journey that you select and gives you more meaningful statistics or information. I'm not trying to, cross the lines of TGA or be, therapeutic or diagnostic. It is just educational, and it's trying to say to you, well, these are your spots that you need to work on. See if you can make them better over time. So that's kind of where I tried to draw that from, because Ken, like you, like me, we're not getting any younger, and I've got a few more aches and pains than I had in my 20s. I'm sure you have as well. So it's trying to make sense of that, really. Which is why I've done what I've done. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. All right, so before we get into what you've built, can you help me understand what this data is actually supposed to mean? Like, what is HRV actually measuring? Because I don't think people, or most people, really understand that.
A lot of these terms, I think, are bandied around. HRV is heart rate variant, right? Which is the variation that your heart rate has between the highest point and the lowest point. And the more variance you have in that, the better it's meant to be for you. But I'm not too sure about that. I think it's a very overused term. Even when I was creating what I've created, there was many instances where I said, well, let's not use HRV as the primary point. Let's use it in conjunction with other data points to make some meaningful educational sense at the other end of it, not rely on that single statistic.
Could that plug into correlating that with sleep as well? Sleep scores?
Massively, yeah. Sleep, and if you think about it as well, fitness, obviously.
Resting heart rates?
Yeah. There's many different data points that you can pull together, but I think that once you pull multiple sets of data together, it makes much more sense than a single statistic or a single metric. And depends on the journey that you're after as well. Like, you may not be looking at your HRV component if you're looking to watch your weight or manage your mental state.
So what you're saying with HRV is essentially you're being compared to a statistical average, not yourself.
Pretty much, yeah. You've got to look at all of the data, not a single data, not a single point.
So for example, my BMI is obese, highly obese, but I'm not obese. I'm very large and have quite a bit of muscle on me. So and most football players be classed as obese. So you're being compared against statistical norms, not who you are actually.
100%. Well, that's your demographic, right? And what I've done with the platform that I've got is there's two core settings. One is the journey that you select, and the other is your activity. So I've kind of had a bit of fun with it, and I've gone 5 different categories in the activity state, desk bound, and that is me because I'm at my desk 24 hours a day, apart from when I'm sleeping, of course. Dog walker, gym regular, daily mover, and elite athlete are the 5 categories I've got in there. And I think that once you understand where your activity settings are versus your journey that you're trying to undertake, and many other metrics, we'd be here all day talking about that. But I think once you understand that from your own demographic, where you are, your age, your gender, your activity setting, and the journey that you're undertaking, and then extrapolate that data out at the back of that, it makes much more sense, right? You start then to get an educational stat or protocols in front of you that you can work with based on you.
And you can work with that with yourself, obviously, in your own research, but also with your doctor.
100%. Yes. Yeah. This is educational, what I've developed. And I think that P4 is the key, right? P4 is predictive, personalized, participatory, and preventative. Okay. Now, if you pull those together, that's what it's looking at. And these are the things that I don't think, and I'm certainly not a GP. I'm not a medical guy. I'm a data guy. I mean, you and I were doing, IT support back in 2006. And you and I have been on that data train for many years. So this is just another iteration of that, but it's become more prevalent to me as I've got older and I've got a few more aches and pains. So I've dug deep with this and tried to make sense of it.
It goes back a little bit further. I think it was the early thousands. We were both running around Brisbane together.
That's right. Yeah. Fixing lawyers' computers.
Yeah, barristers. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Yeah, that's really good. Fantastic. So, why don't we talk about Henry? So let's not show Henry. Let's just talk about him. So this is what you set out to fix. You've got your data. You've got Henry that's been built into your system as well. So tell me about the moment Henry actually worked, the first time you got a response that felt genuinely specific to you, and why you're excited by Henry as an add-on to what you've already got, which is the data. And I think this is key.
Right. Okay. Henry came about in my business plan back in early 2024, late 23. And this was when the advent of AI was apparent. But then I thought, well, surely you could use that as kind of a health coach. Now, the bolder idea was to put Henry in your glasses and have a bit of AR, augmented reality going on, and it could actually see what you're doing every day and give you, real-time feedback with your daily activities and what you're eating, how you're sleeping, all of that sort of stuff. And I thought that was a genuinely brilliant idea, right? Not saying I'm the first person to have that idea, of course not, but so it kind of came from that. What I've built in the stack, and I don't know how deep you want me to go with the AI side of this, but I've developed a way where Henry can read your data. You do need to give authorization for Henry to read your data. But when you start pulling in your stats from your wearables and your reports, then you start make meaningful sense out of that. Now, I've got 126 textbook PDFs that I've collected over years, and I've extrapolated that out into a database, essentially. And then Henry can negate that or negotiate that database against your statistics to give you some meaningful outputs on questions that you ask.
Cool. So give us an example verbally, what does Henry actually say? Like, what are the words?
It depends on what you're trying to ask him. So he is your friendly coach, right? Your health coach. And again, not therapeutic. I've put a lot of time into the guardrails in the system that I've built to make sure that it doesn't cross the TGA boundaries and doesn't give you therapeutic or diagnostic outputs. And it'll certainly tell you to go and see your GP, right? But if you wanted to say, look, I'm looking at taking this supplement. Can we monitor this over time? My sleep is really bad. Do I take melatonin? Do I take magnesium? A lot of people take magnesium. Now, magnesium to me has the opposite effects. It keeps me awake. So again, it's your personal chemical makeup, right? Everybody is different, 100%.
But this is
But
where
if
the
you,
research plugs in, yeah. So you've got your data, and you want to research the data instead of just going to the internet and getting 6 different answers for the same question. You've got Henry, who's plugged into all the medical textbooks and studies, and pulls the information from there and extrapolates that. Can you actually show us a real Henry conversation now? Not a demo, just a real one.
yeah, no, I'll share my screen. Okay,
Right.
can you see my screen?
We can see your screen. Let's go.
All right. Well, there's 3 different modes here. Dashboard is the default that everybody will get when and this is a freemium model, by the way. I don't ask for cash to come in and join. You can join as the core member, which is a free one. But the dashboard will just give you guidance around how to use the dashboard. Simple as that.
Yep.
No bones, no bears. Then the health one. Now I've already ticked the box to accept Henry to have access to my data. So that's not going to ask me again. Once you tick it, you can untick it down the track. But and then advanced is more of the clinical mode. The advanced goes into the 126 PDF textbooks that I've got. The health mode, interestingly, goes into my coding stack that I've built over the years. So if we just sort of say, and I'm on the live longer journey here, Henry does have access.
Sleep and HRV.
Sorry?
We've already talked about HRV and sleep. Let's.
All right. Well, for that case, let's just go sleep restored then, because that's obviously one of the journeys here.
Oh,
That's now changed to sleep. So then we go, hey Henry, how's my sleep been over this let's just go a week.
We'll see how busy you've been working, hey?
Exactly that. Terribly. I guarantee he's going to say, yeah, your sleep's crap, Mike.
So this is really cool. So you've got your data, and you've got Henry that you can actually talk to about your data, and then make an informed decision on what you do with your supplements, or if you go and see a doctor.
100%. So as you can see here, your 7-day sleep pattern based on your wearable data, 7-day averages scoring of nearly 71 out of 100, fair range, below your 30-day average of 70.4. So the trend is essentially flat. But what does the pattern tell me? Let's skip a few. I won't read these verbatim.
Well, people can pause if they want and look at it.
Yeah, 100%. Your sleep quality is volatile week to week. You can produce an 83 night like last night, but you're not sustaining it. The issue isn't sleep latency or total sleep duration. It's deep sleep depth and consistency.
Which tells you that you've got to get your act together with your sleep. It's as simple as that.
100%.
So regular bedtimes, waking up at a regular time.
Well, I'm holding down 2 jobs really. I've got a job that I do 9 to 5 during the week, and then I do this at any other time that I can find in my life.
So it's Henry's fault. Okay.
Yeah, totally blame Henry. Well, let's ask it about the last 2 nights. So if I say, "Hey Henry, how are my last 2
And we just
nights?"
jumped into the advanced mode as well.
I have. So now this will give us a clinical, a textbook output, but it'll actually state and reference the paragraphs and the pages that it took from the textbooks, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's certainly next level. Now I've developed a router solution in the back end of this, so it actually routes on a context level as to which, where to get the data from, essentially.
Oh wow.
So, as it says here, what's working, awake time, performing well, REM sleep just over an hour present, which supports cognitive consolidation. Apparently I'm brainy today. Your HRV of 25, which I think is pretty bad, but it's reasonably stable. It's not the worst. I think the bottom end of where my HRV needs to be is around 25. But again, it's about all of the stats, right? My deep sleep last night was just over an hour, which is perfect. 3 practical moves for tonight. Cool the room. Magnesium glycate, 400 ml. and wind down buffer of 60 to 90 minutes before your intended sleep time, with screens off and low lighting. I actually read a book before I go to sleep these days, which I've just picked up these last 6 months, which is pretty cool.
So in plain terms, Mike, Henry reads your data, and you can have a conversation about your data instead of just reading it like you would on a Garmin app, for example, and say, okay, my sleep was this, my heart rate was this, blah, blah, blah. You can actually have a conversation about your data and see how you can improve your situation.
100%. Well, the other thing I've done with this is I built in a memory system. I won't tell you how I did that, but I built in a memory system. So as you can see here, I've got 20 messages. It's got historical content, so I can actually keep up that conversation over days or weeks or months.
Yeah, okay. So I can actually tell you the improvements that you're getting as well.
Yeah, 100%.
As well as you seeing it. So on the data, can you just quickly switch to the dashboard just so we can have a quick look in that?
Yeah, I will just say here, this is quite an interesting one here. It says your genetic profile also flags increased sleeplessness risk. So consistency in your sleep environment and pre-bed routine carries more weight than you, for me personally, than your average person. Small inconsistencies compound more quickly. So I've got to be regimented in my sleep patterns, and that's down to my genetics. Thanks, Mum. So that's kind of where that kind of comes from.
All right. So on your dashboard, if you can go to the dashboard.
Yeah.
And that's
so.
Yep.
Yep. These 5 tabs here are fairly well orientated around you and your data. So obviously, reports is reports. I'll just take that out of that mode, so you may be able to see it a little bit better. But again, these are my statistics, and I'm happy to share. But so based on,
what's the most surprising thing that people see when they first, what's the most surprising thing that people think when they first see this dashboard?
I think it's very individual, though, Ken. I think you get out of it what you want to get out of it. Right. The my reports, my data and digital twin all pull data from my core education stack that I've spent 2 years building. The P4 guide is the AI that gels all that together. Now that AI can either take the information and education from the machine learning and the logarithms and the stack that I've built, or it can go into that clinical mode and review the PDFs that I've managed to do what I've done there. But these stats here, again, there are over 75,000 SMP markers with a full genetic makeup. How do you make sense of that? So a couple of things I've done here is that these are the actual lab reports. If I just click on there, I've got 33 modules or 33 reports based on my genetics that I can click on and just download and read off the bat. However, in here, I've tried to make it a little bit easier to understand, right? So if I just, for example, click on cortisol, it gives me what that actually means. So rather than leaving people in the lurch, and I think a lot of companies, maybe, I don't know, I've not tested other companies.
But it's okay, you can actually say stuff about other companies because this is pretty bloody good.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I don't know how other companies do it. I've put my head in the sand a little bit with that, and I've gone, well, how would I like to see this? And I think that just the understanding of the data is kind of what I would like to see based on the journey I select.
So really, this is what all the data in one spot looks like.
Yes. Now this, on the left-hand side tab, these are genetics, these are bloods, and then these are actions and protocols, as it says. Okay. So this correlates what some protocols based on the biomarkers or SMP markers that you have within your testing environments. Next recommendations, and it does the same up here. For example, if I click on that, it says healthy cortisol rhythm, intact stress adaptation, chronic elevation, metabolic dysfunction, and immune suppression. But then it gives me some guidelines around that. So limit my morning caffeine. Now I'm bad in the morning. I have at least 2 coffees, but then I'll stop. It says that ashwagandha might be good for me. Consistent sleep time waking. And again, that correlates with all of the data on this, right? It says I must have a pretty good regime for sleep. Sleep times, wake times, all the rest of it. And my body, based on the biomarkers and the information that it's got from me, it says I specifically would do well with meditation and breath work. My body reacts really well.
I think breath work's absolutely fantastic. Like,
very underrated, hey? I think a lot more people are taking.
Method is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
And again, you come down to HbA1c. I got my CRP in there as well. Tells me, and this is interesting because this is not only in my bloods does it say Mediterranean diet, but also in my genetics. It says I specifically are very good, and I don't know whether it'll tell me on this page specifically. No, it doesn't.
So you must have some Roman blood in you, hey?
I reckon.
Mike,
so this is kind of trying to make sense of the data and pulling it together. And again, if I do change the journey here, and I'll click live longer again, so it now surfaces the data that's relevant to that journey.
All right, fantastic. Well, let's do I reckon we do a product tour next podcast. What do you think?
That sounds cool, mate. Absolutely.
Well,
I could be here for days talking about it.
I know, right? Let's stop sharing at the moment. And let's move into the next question to keep us moving along. So here's a really wide, broad question here. So who is this actually built for? Like, if someone's watched this and wondering if it's for them, what's the honest answer?
I struggled when you asked me this before, and only because I think this is for everybody.
Yep.
All right. I suppose it's for anybody who's interested in their health data. I suppose that's the thing. I've spoken to a lot of different people around the traps, and you particularly think that this is really good for sports and athletes. My missus thinks it's brilliant for hormones, for menopause.
For example.
Yep. And then I showed this to somebody else, and they went, "Wow, this would be brilliant for a GP."
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it'd be great in a high performance.
I think what it's not for is for people.
This is the question: who is it not for? So, I think being honest about who it's not for is, matters.
I think it does as well, and I think it's for people who don't want to read the data.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those people at all, but for those that do want to read the data, this is it.
Yeah.
This is why I built it. I was a DJ for many years, and in the army before that, and always been keen and interested in IT, and I suppose for me it's about logarithms and making sense of the data. Even DJs make sense of the data, right?
We've both got a bit in common there, IT and army, so.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right.
On my side,
Come from the same cloth, mate. Yeah. Although you're a little bit bigger than I am.
All right, so it's really for everyone, and the people it's not for is, people that really don't track their data or are really interested in their health at that point in time. And I think that does change over time for everyone as we do get older.
I think these type of platforms are becoming more prevalent as well. You've had the recent release of, I think Anthropic or Claude released a health side of that. I know OpenAI did as well with GPT Health, is it? I think.
Yeah.
And I think Apple are also leaning into that scene. But I don't see anybody. I don't see any other platform that's surfacing the data the way that I'm doing it. I've got cohort analysis. I've got personal baselines. I've got 4-day and 7-day reference checks, surfacing the data based on the 10 different journeys that I've got. And I do notice as well, and Oura is fantastic for producing data, but I do think that their app is a little bit sleep orientated.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really extrapolate a journey from the data on their app. I think you can from their data, and maybe if they catch this podcast, who knows, they might do that. But that's kind of what I've tried to do there, is to make sense of it.
All right. So for anyone that's watching and who's thinking that sounds like me, I would use this app. What's the first step? What do you actually do? Sign
up. I'll tell you what, because we're just kind of releasing this now, I'm more than happy to, if somebody emails me at support@p4health.com.au, I'll give them a 3-month trial with a code they can use, and they can automatically then put in their wearable devices into the system and have a play with it. Christ, if you don't like it, jump off, don't use it.
Yep. And
If you
if
do,
they just want to sign up by themselves, how do they do that?
they go to p4health.com.au and click on the dashboard link or log in, and that'll get them to log in with a free account, and they can instantly start playing with the platform. 100%. You can also, I've built in a community. It's quite a deep and meaningful community platform as well. There's not many people using it at the moment because we are only just releasing, obviously. But in there are forums. There are, I think I've got about 50 or 60 videos that you can download that will actually go through and guide you as to what your epigenetics actually mean, and help you unpack the SMP markers there. So yeah, it's just a forum that's just there for people who want to talk about their specific health journeys.
Okay, fantastic. And you're also in that forum as well.
I am, yes, I am, 100%.
All right, so the last one.
Yep.
People are watching this and they're going to compare P4 Health to whatever health app they're already using. So what's the honest answer? Is this just another health app?
I don't think it's a health app. It's a journey guidance tool. I think I'd relate this more to a tool than an app. For example, it presents much better on a desktop. You can imagine it with 3,000 data points. It's very difficult to condense all of that into a mobile. Now, I've done really well at that, but you have to jump in to have a look. I think you get more benefit out of seeing it on a bigger screen, because obviously health's not going to sit on a mobile screen.
Yeah.
It does, but I just say that, you know, for the amount of data that you've got, I think it's worthy to put it on a desktop screen because you get more out of it.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's leave that one there. And I think next week we'll do a podcast deep into the product features where you can get your geek on. How's that sound?
Yeah, perfect. Do you want to go more into the weeds and into the trenches of exactly how I piece this together, or do we go more on your side and look at more of the sports end of this?
Yeah, well, let's have a look at the sports end. I'm really interested in how high performance teams, that could be say NRL, AFL, Olympic sports organisations, etc., could use this with their high performance managers, because I think as the seasons roll on, we all face issues with injuries and energy levels and everything else, and I think this is this really provides a lot of levers for those high performance guys and girls to pull and get the best out of the athletes. So that's just one thing I'm interested in. Then I'd like to potentially, let's go forward and talk about menopause as well, which doesn't affect us directly, but it does indirectly.
It does, mate. Yeah. No, it's called andropause, and I think all of us have named it menopause. So yeah, 100%. It's a thing. Yeah. As we get older, we get through depression and all sorts of weird and wonderful.
These are all issues that people sweep under the carpet, and doctors don't necessarily do too well at as well. I think from I'm at that age where I know people that are going through those issues. So I think if you can help yourself a little bit more, do a bit more research, it's definitely the way to go.
100%. I think that menopause or andropause, it's all about your hormone imbalance as you get older. Our testosterone plays with us like nobody's business, and obviously the ladies, it's the kind of cortisol side of things, but certainly it's a thing, and we all need to be aware of it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Mike. Episode 01 down.
Beautiful.
We'll only get better from here. And if you're watching, thank you so much for getting to this stage of the podcast.
Beautiful. I just want to say a big shout out to our wives, because I know that they'll definitely watch, and Larissa, I reckon she might watch as well. But there we go.
Fantastic. All right, mate. Thank you.